Hey there, Afrodo Reviews here, bringing you another book to decide, is it worth reading over second breakfast? Or does it deserve the fiery pit of Mount Doom? So let's decide. Today's book, for those of you who read the TBR, we're going to start this month off with a YA novel. Today we dive into the deep and twisted depths of The Compound. The Compound is a 2008 young adult novel written by S.A. Bodeen and published by Farewell and Friends, or Macmillan Ltd, as I found out later. I don't know if there was a name change recently or not, so just putting that up there. The book was, from what I could find, mostly positively received, with specific attention brought to the engaging audiobook narrative. That being said, I didn't necessarily find any awards that it received that's worth talking about, really. A sequel was published to the book called Fallout, and it was released in 2013, with S.A. Bodeen quoted as saying that she hadn't initially planned to write a sequel, but did so due to popular demand. I haven't read the sequel personally, though admittedly after reading this book, I am curious on what she used for the sequel, because this one kind of ends pretty definitively in my opinion. Now for those of you who've watched the TBR video, you've already heard the general synopsis of the book. If you haven't, I suggest watching it real quick so you get a basic idea of what I'm doing this month. The book itself is about a young protagonist, Eli Yanakakis. I don't know how to say it. I'm just going to put it down here so you guys see what I'm trying to pronounce. As he lives with his family in an underground bunker that his father built in the wake of a nuclear attack that supposedly rendered everything outside unlivable. Eli has lived in this bunker for 6 years now, and things haven't quite gone as planned, starting with his grandma and twin brother failing to make it inside the bunker in time, and concluding with something else I'm going to get into. Trust me, it's weird. I need to discuss it by itself. To start with the review, we start where we always do. The cover. It's simple, but a little lacking in my opinion. The front is just the title, with the author's name right here, in a font that appears to be worn and faded with time, the kind you typically see in like old underground bunkers, at least in the movies. And that much I like. I like that much a lot. However, the background, which I assume is meant to be the bunker's door, or the compound's door that keeps him in, kind of looks more like a manhole cover to me, as opposed to like a vault door as I was imagining. You have a quote from Publishers Weekly right up here in the upper... You have a quote up here from Publishers Weekly in the upper right-hand corner, and an ominous quote at the bottom. Eli's father built the compound to keep the family safe. Now they can't get out. He won't let them. Now, apart from the cover being a bit too simple for my taste, I also think this little quote on the bottom gives away just a little too much about the book and the premise. That is to say, for all intents and purposes, this book is a thriller. And the first part of the book really tries to play with the idea that you don't know if the father is really looking out for them or not. Something that we already know isn't true now because of this tiny little quote. Even the synopsis, for those of you who've seen the TBR, doesn't quite hint at that. The back has a synopsis of the story, which if you want to see me read, again, check out my TBR. The back is fine, if a little cheesy with this whole safe or sorry line, which tries to sound dramatic and ominous, but I've heard it so often in puns or jokes that it sort of loses all effect that was being aimed at for here.
Safe than sorry, better safe than sorry, better safe than sorry.
Other than that, there's not much else to say. I like the colors. The side catches your attention pretty well, so when it's on a bookshelf. All in all, it's basic, but serviceable. With that, we move on to the story, and there's a lot to talk about. Now to start, I do like the direction this book took. It was definitely more of a thriller, in that the same vein of being locked in a house with a psychopath, but taken to the next level and being locked in an underground bunker, with the psychopath being the only person who can let you out, and the outside potentially being full of nuclear radiation that's going to kill everyone. We get a good sense of how poorly the family is doing mentally early on, and the book even starts with a quick look at them fleeing into the bunker underneath a supposed nuclear attack that's just about to happen. The stakes feel real and tangible, with things not being as simple as just being a crazy man is locked in the room with them, and they don't just want to defeat him because he's their dad, and despite all their flaws, they do still love him. So they're trying to find a neat balance between stopping him but not hurting him. Now, that being said, there are some flaws with the book. The first is that the main character, for at least the beginning, is just awful.
He's an asshole.
I mean it. He's just horrible to be inside the head of. Trust me. I haven't read Catcher in the Rye yet, but if Holden Caulfield is even half the brat this kid is in the first part of the book, I get the hate that character gets. This character, Eli, it's just bad. When they're first escaping into the bunker, one of his first thoughts is how he almost didn't care if one of his little sisters made it inside when, again, for all he knows, nuclear war just happened and wiped out most of the world. I mean, he constantly picks on his little siblings to a point that it's more like bullying than it is teasing. For those of you who do have siblings and are saying, well, yeah, I fight with my siblings all the time. No, he's more like flat out bullying his siblings rather than teasing them or just like the sibling fight that they do. I have siblings. I know what siblings fight like, and I know this is not a good fight. This is bullying. He also constantly bemoans how everyone liked his twin better than him, but even makes a point of acknowledging that he never made an effort to be friendly, whereas his twin did. While also talking about how this one time in the past, they were at a shared birthday party, and he switched all the presents for his twin to him, and took all the presents that they gave him to his twin, simply because he knew his twin was going to get the better gifts. And then when the entertainer caught him, he more or less silently threatens the entertainer to shut up or he's going to get fired. But then feels like so sad when that entertainer is like, you must be the evil twin. Oh no, what could possibly have given him that idea, Eli? So yeah, for the first 6 chapters, this kid is just so awful. I almost put this down. I'm not joking. I almost stopped reading this book because this is a first-person point of view book. So everything in these first 6 chapters is painted with this ugly shade of cynicism and unpleasantness that just permeates the entire time. Thankfully, he does get better and even begins to work on his actual personality problems. I just wish it didn't take... Well, what his father wants to do is what causes him to turn his attitude around. Okay, I'm just going to say this. Now, this is going to get into some spoiler territory, but I can't really talk about this book without getting into this. Just so we're clear, if you don't want spoilers, if you want to go into this book completely blind beyond what I've said, click off here, or just jump straight to the conclusion. If I had to sum this book up in one sentence, it's this. Are you ready? Are you sure? Because I don't think you're ready for what I'm going to say. Because, alright, here it goes. Rich tech CEO fakes the nuclear apocalypse to trap his family in an underground bunker so he can try to recreate the Donner Party with incestual clone babies.
What? What the fuck?
Just take a moment. Soak it in. Yes, I really said that. Yes, that is what happens in the book. Yeah, that's what the dad's trying to do. That's what causes the protagonist to turn around and try to work on his personality. He even outright states later on that this whole thing to him was like some kind of social experiment. He purposely set off a fake nuclear alert, drove his family out to trap them in this bunker, purposely planned to leave at least one family member behind. In his mind, it was the grandma, because she was the one who constantly challenged him for control. And the twin was a complete accident, because he went with the grandma back to their cabin while they were on vacation. It's complicated, I suggest reading it. And then slowly sabotages their food sources so that he can see how far they will be willing to go to sustain themselves. Someone give this guy a job at Vault Tech. Christ.
Sign up now and prepare for the future.
It goes as far as the family being willing, for the most part, to eat their new siblings born in the compound. But apparently once we started getting to the incestual clone baby stage, that's where we're going to draw the line. I want to believe, personally, that if I were ever in this scenario, I probably would have drawn the line a lot sooner than that. And don't get me wrong, the book itself is good. As I said before, it's decent, thrilling, and the dad comes off as intelligent and loving, while also being dangerous and unstable at the same time. But this little twist caught me way off guard. I mean, you kind of get hints here and there that they're preparing to eat at least their youngest siblings, the ones that had been born while they're in the bunker, because Eli continuously refers to them as the supplements. And we keep seeing little hints or reminiscence about how the food situation keeps getting worse and worse. Eating incestual clone babies maybe took it a bit far in my opinion. And even according to Bodeen, this wasn't actually the plan. She decided to include cannibalism after she watched a show with dinosaurs, where the dinosaur rewarded its favorite child by feeding it its weaker sibling. So yeah, maybe next time, like, just cool it a little. I mean, it was good when it was just, cannibalism. We didn't need incest in it as well. Incest clone babies. I'm never going to get that out of my mind. Incestual Donner Party with the incestual clone babies. I'll give her credit for that. That did stick with me. But anyways, moving on. This book is good, if definitely strange. I personally would give this book a 6 out of 10. Yeah, it's not bad. I would even say it's quite good. But at the same time, it can be very difficult to get through those first chapters due to just how unlikable the protagonist is. And then the strange, out of left field nature of what the father was planning the entire time can just throw you off. And some might argue that in a good way, but I feel it was just a couple steps a little too far into the what territory for, up until that point, a relatively grounded book. I'd recommend this for anyone who wants to read a young adult novel with a relatively interesting thriller segment to it, but do have to warn that it's a little tough to like the protagonist at first, and it has really strange plot twists. It doesn't deserve Mount Doom as far as I'm concerned, but it's a tough one. And that's really all I have to say about this book. As for the next book, this one was actually suggested to me by my older sister, who personally knows the author. It's a self-published debut novel by an amateur author. So, let's hope it's worth the read, because it's going to be a trial of fantastical portions. But until then, remember, with every book comes an adventure, and every adventure is worth having, even the bad ones.